Hey guys, my name is Enthozz. I am a Beast Mastery Hunter player on the server Herod. I told you guys I'm going to put out a Hunter Guide for the last couple months. I have finally done it. Let's jump right into it. It's going to be very short and concise, but if you have any questions about information I may have left out, feel free to leave them below. I'll try to fill you in as best I can. So this guide is going to be specifically for maximizing your DPS. I enjoy parsing. I always try to parse as high as I can, and I'm going to hopefully provide some information that can help you get your damage higher as well. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I need you guys to know about parsing is the biggest factor, assuming you have your gear set right, your consumables right. The biggest factor is going to be kill times. If you have really long boss kill times, I don't think you're going to hit, top 100 world. I don't think that you're going to hit top 1 world, whatever it may be. If your raid comp is not optimal, if you don't have a feral druid in your 5-man party, if you don't have a ret paladin, if you don't have a boomkin in your raid, you're going to suffer as a result. So keep in mind that the two biggest things, which are often outside of our control, are going to be kill times and raid comp. Assuming you have those two things dialed in, which I hope that you do. If you don't, it's not the end of the world, but if you do, then it's on you. So let's jump right into it. Everyone should know by this point that you want to have your 4-piece Beast Lord set. Now, whether or not you use the chest or the legs depends upon whether you're using Primal Strike or not. I did craft Primal Strike as soon as the game came out. At this point, if you have not yet done so, and you're wondering whether you should do it or not, I would not go for it personally. It's a lot of gold, it's a lot of effort. I just don't think it's worth it since we're so close to tier 5. Up to you. At the end of the day, leatherworking is great, especially since we get Belt of Deep Shadows for next tier, which is going to be your BIS. And yeah. Going through the rest of my gear, I've got the Atumen, the Huntsman neck piece. It's basically the same as the Badge of Justice neck piece. I've got the Blood Knight Warcloak from Badge of Justice vendor. Basically equivalent to Vengeance Wrap. I think Vengeance Wrap is 1 or 2 DPS higher. I've got fell leather boots, although I have these bad boys I need to put gems in. I'm going to do that as soon as this video's done. Rings are pretty straightforward, etc, etc. Notice how I'm at 6.4% hit. My raid does use a boomkin, so I only need a 6% maximum, or minimum rather, to hit my hit threshold. Now, if you don't have a boomkin, you're going to want to be at 9%, right? So use that information as you will. The two biggest disputes right now for hunter gearing are going to be Hourglass versus Abacus, and whether or not you should use fist weapons or a two-handed weapon like Mooncleaver or whatever the hell the blacksmithing weapons are. I'm going to give you my opinions on both. I feel very strongly on both. I think that fist weapons are superior to two-handed weapons in a major way. The reason being, we get to use these bad boys on our fist weapons. We get the 14 crit rating and the 12 blunt weapon damage. Now, if you have 2 fist weapons, you get all the benefit in that. You get the weapon damage and you get the crit rating. If you have a dagger like myself, you're going to want to use the fell sharpening stones. You'll get the weapon damage increase. You will not get the crit increase. If you guys don't have this, don't worry about it. If you have Storm Reaver Warblades from the Botanica, use that instead. The only reason I'm using this dagger is because I did about 20 runs of Botanica and never saw the fist weapon offhand. You can use the fist weapon offhand there, or you can go to Nether Storm and you can buy yourself a Void Talon. If I'm not mistaken, Void Talon is like 1 DPS higher than the Warblades. By the time I found that out, I had already gemmed this and enchanted it, so there's really no going back. Technically, Blade of the Unrequited is BIS, but I would not worry about it because it's such a small marginal increase as opposed to either of those fist weapons. There's a lot of people right now that have blacksmithing axes. The reason that they have this is because the stats are pretty good and because they are doing something called melee weaving. Melee weaving is a hot topic in the hunter community. I think that early on there was a lot of hype around it. There was a lot of theory crafting that suggested it would be upwards of a 25 to 30% damage increase over just using range attacks. My honest opinion, melee weaving is not good. I think it puts yourself at risk. I think it puts your raid at risk. And I think that overall, if it was as good as people thought it would be, we would see a hell of a lot more hunters in the top logs for every boss melee weaving. But we really don't. I've seen a couple logs where it's good, but I am not convinced of its merits. I hope that someday I get proved wrong. I think it's a fun idea. I just don't think it is good. I don't think it's ideal, and I think that if you want to keep yourself safe and maximize your DPS, you sit back with your 2 fist weapons, with your adamantite weight stones, and you just pump DPS using your rotation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments about my opinions on melee weaving below, but I am adamant when I say that I think melee weaving is not good. Hopefully, maybe, someday I'll get proven wrong, but I feel like phase 1 is the perfect phase to prove me wrong for that, and since we haven't seen it yet, I am not optimistic. So there's that. Moving on, Hourglass versus Abacus. Now, there are a lot of people that say Abacus is better. Okay. I don't think either trinket is better than the other. I think that if you have really short boss kill times, like myself and like a lot of top guilds, Hourglass is going to blow this thing out of the water. Now, if you have more normal kill times, say you're closer to 4, 5, 6 minutes for Gruul, maybe even more for Magtheridon, there's more of an argument to be had for Abacus. You can use the same argument for whether or not you have a Feral Druid, in your group. The 5% crit is a big deal. It certainly increases your chances to proc the Hourglass. If I'm not mistaken, Hourglass has a 50-second internal cooldown. So if you're like me and you're killing Gruul and I want to say like 2.5 minutes, you could proc this, 2, maybe 3 times if you're lucky. Maybe you don't proc it at all. It's RNG. This is a very high RNG trinket. You can ball out with it or you can fall flat. I do prefer it to Abacus personally, only because I have short boss kill times. If you have longer boss kill times and you want to have that guaranteed increase every 2 minutes, go for Abacus. It's a great trinket. 64 AP as a static weight is not bad at all, and the haste is nice. If you're killing demon or undead bosses, Mark of the Champion, terrific trinket. I use this on Terrestrian Ilhoof, I use it on Prince Malchazar, I use it on Ottoman, Moros, etc. Maybe I should be using Hourglass on Moros, but that's neither here nor there. The other 2 trinkets I have in question are Devil Sword Tooth and Gnomish Battle Chicken. If you guys made a hunter for TBC, maybe you boosted a hunter, or maybe you just never did the Sunken Temple questline in Classic, I would go back and get this trinket immediately. This bad boy is a nice little DPS boost on every single boss you'll kill, in every single arena match you'll play, every single battleground you'll play. It's terrific. It's not going to break the game, it's not going to skyrocket your DPS, but it's a nice little guaranteed increase you can do for every fight, no matter what. And I'll show you what it does. Your pet's next attack is guaranteed to critically strike if that attack is capable of striking critically. Now the cool thing about this trinket, and what makes it so good, is that I cast it, my pet gets the buff, I change this to Hourglass, my pet still has the buff. It's beautiful. Nice little guaranteed increase, always. Go back and do that quest if you haven't yet. Do yourself the favor. And yes, the other trinket I have is Gnomish Battle Chicken. There's a lot of debate over which professions you guys should have. Jewel crafting, enchanting can give you nice little PvE boosts. I think engineering is going to be awesome, especially for TK and SSC. If you have a guild that really likes to parse, and I mean you're leaving the last trash mob up to use your chickens before you pull a boss for the nice little 5% haste increase, it's going to help you out. Not only does your pet benefit from the melee, but any melee that's in your group, or from the haste buff, sorry, any melee in your group will also benefit from it. So essentially, you put this bad boy out, it attacks the mob, and there's a good chance that it will give you a buff that lasts for, I believe it's 4 minutes, and it increases your melee haste by 5%. Now if you've got 5 people in your group with this thing, and you all use it at the same time, and you all get a proc, your pet is going to have a 25% haste rating on his melee attacks. That's a giant increase in his DPS. And more DPS means a faster boss kill time. Faster boss kill times mean your overall DPS is higher. Everyone's happy. It's great. Now, this is going to delay your raid a little bit. I know that we spend quite a bit of time waiting for chickens in our raids at times. You can do the same if you want, but if you're really trying to maximize your damage as a raid group, as an individual, I think that Gnomish Battle Chickens are great and fun in quotes, of course, little tools. Another thing that engineering provides is super sapper charges. I think that especially in SSC and TK, when we start versing bosses and trash mobs with tons of mobs in them, sappers will be a big big increase in your DPS for that pack alone. My favorite stat on Warcraft logs personally is overall boss and trash damage, and if you're really trying to maximize your damage on both of those things, especially on trash, Super Sapper charges will give you that nice little boost. So if it was up to me, if you're going to go 2 professions for the next tier, tier 5, I would say engineering and leatherworking. Leatherworking for the Belt of Deep Shadows. Don't be an asshole. Do not take the Vash belt from your melee. Give that to your melee. It has expertise. Do not fool yourself. As far as gearing goes, I think that's about it. Let's go ahead and move to rotation. And then some tips and tricks. Now, a lot of people ask me, hey, is there just one button you use? Do you just want to use a macro? You want to use a macro, for sure. But you're not just going to use one button. There are a lot of tools that we use, and the macro is the one that we certainly use the most, but there's a lot of other stuff that we use as well. So this is the macro I use. This is the one that's been going around as of late. If you have any questions on this macro, you can ask the Hunter Discord about it. You will need to recast it for each new mob you target, but it essentially works as an open with your auto shot, and then every time you press it, it will use your steady shot. Also uses kill command from time to time. Although I like having a manual kill command button as well. If you don't have a manual button, I would urge you to get one. You will be needing it at times. I'm going to show you the rotation that you're going to want to do. The big rotation right now is called the French rotation. It's a 5-5-1-1 rotation that you use when you have no haste procs, essentially. So let's go through it real fast. I open with a steady shot, and immediately, as soon as my steady shot ends, I use a multi-shot. You want to keep multi-shot on cooldown as much as you can, ideally, if you have the mana for it. If you don't have the mana for it, you're going to want to stick to steady shot for the most part, and you're certainly going to want to stay away from arcane shot. Now, since we have fast boss kill times in my guild, I use both pretty liberally. I'm keeping arcane shot on CD sometimes, but multi-shot is the better ability, and I like using it a lot more, as do most. So I reposition myself. Another steady into arcane. I use the MD on the tank. Don't forget to use MD. Helps everybody out. Now I get lusted. I pop my cooldowns. I use my haste potion. I'm popping off big damage. This was back when the auto shot macro thing still worked. Doesn't work anymore, so don't just spam your macro when this happens. You need to time it. So the way that you want to do it now is you need to time it so that you're using, essentially, if you're going to do a 2-1 or 1-2 rotation, you're going to use one steady shot to every 2 autos. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple, but I would urge you to practice it as best you can while you're hasted. I will still use multi-shot while I'm hasted. And as far as arcane shot goes, I don't really use it much unless I am moving, I'm thrown up in the air by Gruul or some other boss, or I'm not hasted and I'm trying to fill my gaps, right? So right here, I should be getting thrown up into the air. I use arcane shot. I should be using Serpent Sting here. Okay, I've got the mana for it. Serpent Sting is something that you only want to use when you're moving, again, like Arcane Shot, and when Arcane Shot is on cooldown. So I can't use Arcane Shot right now. I should have used that bad boy as well while I was in the air, but I did not in this particular VOD. I've gotten better about that since. And then here, while I'm still moving, I'm going to throw one more Arcane Shot out. It's going to crit, nice little 2k. Easy DPS, right? So the only time that I use Serpent Sting is like on mag when you're getting tossed back on the ground. You can use it, assuming Arcane Shot is on cooldown. But I don't use Arcane Shot much, and I only use this. Only use this when I'm moving. It's a small amount of damage for a big mana cost. So if you've got the mana for it, great. If you don't use it. So on and so forth. Let's see. If you guys have questions on the French rotation, post them below. It's really like a thing that you got to get a feel for. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, but it depends on mana. Like I said, prioritize multi-shot over arcane shot. Comes pretty simply. What else? Okay. That is about it as far as rotation goes. So moving on, we're going to go into things that you can do to maximize your DPS as far as cooldowns are concerned. Now notice in the Gruul video, as soon as Lust got popped, I popped all my cooldowns. If you're in a guild where they're waiting to use Lust, you're going to want to use your CDs hopefully somewhat early and then have them back up by the time Lust comes around. For example, if you've got a 5-minute boss kill time, say your Gruul takes 5 minutes and you're not using Lust until, I don't know, 3.5 minutes or so. You can use your CDs right when the fight opens, and then you can hold them again for when you lust. But I cannot tell you how many logs I see where people simply don't use their cooldowns until the lust comes out. If it was up to me, in a perfect world, lust would be used at the beginning of every boss fight, and you would line your CDs up with that. You know, you'd use your cooldown button. All my CDs are popped. I use a haste potion as well. I'm going ham. Lust is going off. I'm doing enormous damage, right? That won't always be the case. So if you need to line it up with lust, try to find out when in the fight you're going to be using it, and then do the math. You know, if you're going to be using lust 2.5 minutes into a fight, you can pop your CDs 15 seconds into a fight and then have them back up, with exception to maybe rapid fire at that next point, at that 2.5 minute point. But you want to use your CDs as many times as you can per fight, because it is a major, major, major DPS increase. If you're missing even one window of CDs, and you could have squeezed maybe one more Bestial Wrath in, one more Rapid Fire in, etc., you're doing yourself a giant disservice. So do the best that you can. Try to find out, you know, with your officers, with your raid leader, when it is you're going to be using lust, and kind of time your stuff around it, right? So that's a big thing, and I think it's going to come down to an individual basis as far as when you use it. You know, that's going to be something that you guys yourselves need to figure out. If you have any questions on it concerning the math, you know, whatever it may be, let me know in comments. I'll do my best to give you a good answer. 5-man group, as far as your raid comp is concerned, is going to be a big deal. I only do really well on damage when I have a Feral Druid in my group, sorry. If you don't have that 5% crit, your damage is going to take a massive hit, right? Ideally, your 5-man group should be something like 3 Beast Mastery Hunters, 1 Feral Druid, and 1 Enhancement Shaman. Or it's like mine in the sense that we have 1 Warrior for Battle Shout, 2 Beast Mastery Hunters, a Feral Druid, and an Enhancement Shaman. Both of those, great groups. They'll maximize your DPS. In my guild personally, we have 3 Beast Mastery Hunters, and we trade off each week in stepping out. So in this upcoming week, for example, I am not in the Feral Druid group. In the following 2 weeks, I will be. If you need to figure out a rotation, or whatever the case may be, go ahead and do that. But if you only have 2 Beast Mastery Hunters, or maybe you're stacking your comp a little bit differently, do what you can to get in the Feral Druid group. I cannot tell you how massive that 5% crit is as a hunter. Yeah. Ultimately, it comes down to an individual basis. That's up to your raid leader. That's up to your guild. But yeah, pretty simple. Beast Mastery Hunters pump a lot of damage, and if we can do more damage, it benefits everybody. The last thing for tips and tricks is going to be an important one, especially for this phase. I see a lot of logs where people are missing out on maybe 5 to 10 seconds for the beginning of a fight because they're waiting for a threat to be established. They're waiting, you know, for people to position themselves properly, especially on Gruul. Something that a lot of people don't know is that you can mind soothe bosses and position yourself around them. You can do this with Gruul, and you can do this with High King Malgar right now. This allows your first misdirect hunter to be able to get a multi-shot, or sorry, an aim shot off. You establish a nice threat right off the bat, and then like for Gruul, for example, you can position yourselves around the entire ring in his room before you pull him. If you get a little bit too close to the center, you will ass pull the boss. It's happened to us personally, and it wipes the raid, but it's really easy to just stick to the sides and then do a countdown. Everyone's already in position for the shatter, and you don't need to run to the opposite side of the room as soon as you pull. That is a lot of lost DPS, and I guarantee your kill time is going to be 5 to 10 seconds longer if you wait to do that. So if you want to risk it, try to mind soothe Gruul, try to mind soothe High King Malgar, see if that helps. It gives us a lot more uptime. It makes your damage go much, much higher. Pretty simple stuff. Your priest is going to need to inch forward very slowly in order to do it, and I think that there is sometimes a chance that it will resist, so be prepared for that just in case. Let's see, what am I missing here? I don't think I'm missing anything as far as that stuff goes. The last thing I want to go over, guys, is consumables. This is all pretty straightforward. There's not that many consumes in the game, so let's go through it real fast. I've got 2 macros for using scrolls on my pet. I've got Scroll of Agility 5, which auto-casts to my pet. I've got Scroll of Strength 5, which also auto-casts to my pet. You want to use a scroll of agility on yourself too, of course, but you can stack those 2 scrolls in your pet with Kibler's Bits. You can use grilled mudfish for agility. If you need the hit, you can use something like spicy hot talbuk. And then the biggest debate right now is whether or not you want to use major agility and major mage blood, or you want to use flask of relentless assault. All the good hunters I know prefer this combination right here. The mana regen's nice, and the agi is also very nice, but maybe if you're doing hardcore progression and you're wiping a lot, this will save you some gold, and it's not that big of a loss as far as DPS goes. I want to say that these two are a very marginal DPS upgrade, but if you're doing a really fast raid night right now in the first tier of fights for TBC, you can pop one of each of these, and you can do the entire raid night, and you save yourself like 70 gold easily. Alternatively, Demon Slaying you can use on fights like Terrestrian Ilhoof, Prince Malkazar, and that's going to blow both combinations right out of the water. So there's that as well. Another question I get pretty often is when I use drums. You know, people pop CDs and then they cast drums. I think that's awful. I don't think that you should pop drums if you have the chance to be attacking the boss. So I'm going to show you what I do personally for drum use. This is my mag kill that I had maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what I do is I use my drums before we pull. So right here, I cast drums. We got 4 seconds till my pull timer. I'm going to cast aim shot. So I'm going to do that. I've got 2 minutes on Tinnitus. I've got 26 minutes of the buff. Life is good. And then I can turn around immediately and start attacking the mobs that are already stacked behind me. If I was to wait to use drums until after my multi-arcane auto shot, I would be wasting 2 seconds of uptime with Lust. That is a big no-no. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're only using drums when you're not able to attack the boss. So here's what I do. I use it before the pull. Always, on any boss, no matter what, I use it before the pull. And then for mag in particular, I'm clicking my cube right here. I've got about 3.5 seconds left on it. Got 4 seconds left on Tinnitus. The timing on this is real nice because I'm too far to attack mag from right where I am. So I finish my cast. Tinnitus is off CD. Click my drums. Back in business. Now I can attack the boss, and I've got the nice little 80 haste. Try to find timings like that where you're not able to attack the boss, or maybe you have to move and you can't be using Arcane or Serpent Sting. And you can cast drums, maybe position yourself so you can cast it for everyone in your group. Really beneficial, helps everybody out. But yeah, do that if you can. The last little thing as far as consumes are concerned is whether or not you want to be using mana potions, whether it be fel mana or regular super mana potions, or haste potions. If you have fast boss kill times, and you're using Judgment of Wisdom as you're supposed to, and you're using Dark Runes or Demonic Runes, which are very, very important, I think that you can get away with using haste potions for every potion CD that you have. Obviously, 400 haste rating is a very big deal. You want to be using this as much as you can, but if you're out of mana, a mana potion is going to give you a higher DPS threshold. So I buy Dark Runes. It breaks the bank. They're not cheap at all. But buying Dark Runes allows me to use haste potions because haste pots and Dark Runes are on different cooldown timers, whereas haste potions and mana potions are on the same cooldown timers. If you really want to go far and maximize your DPS, but you're going to have mana issues due to a long fight, I would urge you to use fel mana potions. I don't have any in my inventory right now, but it's a potion where you get 3,200 mana over the span of, I want to say, I forget how long it is exactly, but it's going to be a bigger increase to your mana pool than a super mana potion. They're quite a bit more expensive, but if you have mana issues and you want to get the most bang for your buck as far as mana is concerned, get those instead. With the next tier of content around the corner, guys, I really want to make videos and kind of individualize videos for each boss fight. I'm hoping I can do that. As of late, my parses have not been that great. The last couple of raids have not been ideal. I'm hoping to put out more content as soon as I can, but this is just kind of a brief overview as far as what we can do right now to maximize DPS. Love you guys. I hope that you guys have a great upcoming week. And as always, if you have any questions, please leave them below. Feel free to follow my Twitch, twitch.enthozz. And yeah, take care, guys.